Alright folks, today is time for us to tackle another fan story written by a lovely Umineko fan of the series. And the fan story for today is gonna be Purgatory of the Golden Witch. This is another fan story that I've heard of in passing as I went through the main story, like from 2020 to 2022. And it is about, apparently it is about the story of Virgilius, who is an old concept that Ariakey wanted to write into the story. That is until he decided to change things up, and we got Evatris and Erika instead. I mean, for those of you who remember like the side content that we did like last year, Last Note of the Golden Witch, featuring our lovely Pace. We had a glimpse of Virgilius there, like at the end when we did that. And today we're gonna be delving into this. Now, this fan story is written by a person named Uminetta. You can follow their link like in the description, and you also have like the link to the fan story itself in the description. And for those of you who want to go through the story yourselves first and then come back to this video if you like, which would be preferably the best option, or we can all read this for the first time together today. So without further ado, let's see. First things first, I wanna see some of this stuff right over here. Let me check. See, like postscript, some words from Uminetta after the Forgery. I think we're gonna be reading this like after you read the fan story. Why Ryu? Did you wonder why I shortened Virgilius' name to Ryu? Here's the answer. Yeah, I think that we're gonna be reading these like after the fan story, and this may offer like spoilers and all that. About the outline for the story was written by Twitter user Uminetta, and the original story, as well as the assets due to create this one, are created and owned by 07's Expression, and I do not claim ownership to them. Please support the original Umineko When They Cry visual novel by buying it here. Made with Ren Pie. This version of Ren Pie. Buying it, well, as far as I can see, there's like a itch.io link where you can get this like fan story, and it was free. By the way, obviously you can get it and read it yourself. Okay. This is like the I guess I didn't read it right. This is talking about the main game and all that, which you should definitely read it. Like, for those of you who are new and you don't know anything about Umineko, you probably shouldn't be here. You should definitely go check out the main story and all that, because it's the best thing in the world. This program contains free software under a number of licenses, including the MIT license and GNU Lesser General Public license. A complete list of software, including links to full source code, can be found here. Okay. Also, as I can see right over here, this is going to be done in Ariakey style, just like Witches and Woodlands that we did like before this. So you know what this means, folks. It's time to dust off these banners like right over here once more. Yeah, these lovely Erika banners, which are going to be a pain in the ass for the rendering process. It's gonna make the rendering like much harder, especially during summer and all that. But you know what, we cannot go through this without the banners. And okay, let's see, preferences. Okay, thank God for the preferences right over here, like music and sound. Like during Witches and Woodlands, I cannot control these. Skip, display, rollback, slide. I wonder what this is about. Like I don't wanna check that. And we can also check like tea parties and the question mark like right away. We're not gonna do that right now. We're gonna be doing this like after. So yeah, let's start. Episode question mark Good morning. The Golden Witch is thrilled to battle with you again. By now you might have discovered the rules of this world, and believe victory is in your hands even before the story has begun. However, there's still more to this world to uncover. Reality can be cruel and cold. Are you prepared to consider all the possible moves? I am ready. Let's get to it. You may perform witchcraft to jump forward in time? What? Nah. Like, this is where you can select the chapters, but I don't want to do that. I think, yeah, with the option to read, like, the Tea Party and the question mark, like, right away, I think that, like, it's not as if it's acting as if we can only start, like, new game right over here. It acts as if the story was already written, but we are gonna be starting from the, from the beginning, of course. A warm, early afternoon wind blew over a small flower garden. The flowers from the previous spring had already started withering, so before long it would become too hot to sit outside and enjoy the weather. Yeah, like I'm recording this during summer right now. It's quite something. The garden was the backyard of a mansion in a small unknown town by the ocean. Connected to the mansion was a small balcony to watch over the scenery. Okay, well, this is Ikuko and Toya's place, it seems. The days had been starting to get longer, which meant that one could sit outside and bathe in the sun for longer in turn. A young man was sat by the table, deeply focused on papers scattered across it. Pens and erasers had been placed upon them to prevent them from being blown away with the wind. His brows were furrowed, and he placed the back of his pen to his forehead, as if he was hoping the words would transfer from his pen to his head, rather than the other way around. But that was no good. He just couldn't find the right way to write that part. How could he put it into words? "Toya-sama, do you want some more tea?" asked the maid, approaching the man with a kind smile. The man cleared his thoughts, and he seemed to return to reality as he put his pen down. Oh. Okay, so it's not Toya, like with his usual white hair look, but it's Toya, but reverting back to Balor looks. That would be delightful. Thank you very much. I guess you could say that once we had that lovely ending to Umineko, I guess the youth started coming back to Toya. To the point where he, like, his hair color came back. The servant seemed satisfied with the man's response, and she shook the empty cup next to him with a polite gesture. Perhaps it was a sign that he should take a break. Hachijo Toya. That was his name. At this point, it was no longer an unfamiliar name to him, and being addressed as it by others had started to feel natural. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, like, I don't think that these sprites of Toya, but with Balor's looks, actually exist. I think these were actually made by somebody, which is nice. It had been a few years, unless like the Ryokishi story also had this kind of sprites, which I kinda doubt it. So I think these were commissioned for the story. It had been a few years since he began going by this name, after all. Hachijo Toya. Well, the question is, like, I'm saying that Toya regained his youth, so to speak, but I get the feeling that this is happening before episode 8. Cause, well, I don't know for sure, but I get the feeling that this story, this fan story, is gonna be like the fan story of episode 3. If Ryokishi decided to do like the Virgilius route instead of the Erika and Evatrus route. So this is before Toya meets Angie for the first time in many years. I don't know, we shall see. That was the name that was given to him that day. He woken up one day without any memories of his past. He'd been saved by a woman named Hachijo Ikuko. She found him on a highway after he'd been hit by a car. If it wasn't for her, he would have been long dead. However, despite surviving that day, he wasn't able to remember where he came from, anyone he knew, or even his own name. All he knew was that he was 18 years old. Okay, so... Phew, like, this is like... Wait, This is fairly close to the instant. It was for this reason that he'd taken the name Toya. Equipped with such little knowledge about himself, the man with no memories had begun his life as Hachijo Toya. Oh, I guess it makes sense that Beller still looks young here, like Toya looks young here. It is fairly recent after he lost his memories. For a time, his only concern had been his missing memories, which had tormented him with headaches each time he tried to recall them. He already started to accept that the memories of the real him would never return. To him, living a quiet, calm life with Ikuko was more than enough. The popularity of their first mystery novel had been rising around that time as well. So truly, at that point, he had little reason to believe that anything would ever change. And then episode 8 happens. But he'd been wrong. He didn't know if it was good luck or a spell of misfortune. But he remembered. Hachijo Toya was once a man named Ushirimiya Beller. He'd be one of the only survivors of the infamous Rokinjima incident. Gah. Toya sank into his seat, feeling a little throb into his head again. Even after regaining his memories, he still found himself periodically tormented by headaches. After all, another man's existence had formed inside his head. If he had to describe it, he might have said it was crowded. He felt as though there simply wasn't enough space for the two of them to coexist in his head. But Toya was afraid. He was deeply afraid that one day, Toya would go to sleep and never wake up. And that, in his place, the person who would be Ushirimiya Beller. Which, we also know that the reason why Toya was very hesitant in meeting Angie was because he didn't want the memories to resurface and to disappear and Beller to come back. He was afraid that he was gonna die and Beller would take his place like yet again when regaining like all memories. He was afraid of that. If that were to happen, would he die completely? Or would he be forced to watch from within Ushirimiya Beller's consciousness? Yeah. There was no way he could know the answer. After all, he sometimes felt as though Beller was watching him. When he had, it was always painful, terrifying experience. Ushirimiya Beller was a man Toya knew everything about. He was a man who was him, but at the same time still a stranger. Ushirimiya Beller scared Hachijo Toya. Toya grasped at his forehead, which was drenched in sweat, and straightened himself in his seat. When the maid brought him the tea he had requested, he thanked her and glanced at his papers while carefully taking sips. Upon those papers was his newest forgery. The Rokinjima incident itself hadn't become famous simply because of the mysterious circumstances. He had gained a following on internet groups and forums. Since the first message bottles, signed by Ushirimiya Maria, had popped up, relaying completely different stories of what happened that day, people who called themselves witch hunters had been attempting to find out the truth of what had happened on that island. And yet, those people had forgotten that the tale had happened to real people, rather than fictional characters. For them, the contents of the cat box were a game, so it was easy for them to tear it out and build a new puzzle every time. Surprisingly though, Toya found it relaxing. While he could remember things from long ago, he could hardly remember the truth of that day. It always felt like the memories of that day were surrounded by a deep black fog. While he remembered that he was Oshinomiya better, he felt like there was no way he could remember just what it was that had happened. That was when Ikuko had suggested that he start writing. She said that it didn't have to be what really happened, but that perhaps if he wrote enough, he might one day miraculously write down the truth. And when that happened, maybe the battler within him would finally be able to rest in peace. Whilst creating stories like these was a great burden at times, it did also give him some measure of temporary peace. You know, this is actually pretty interesting because this kind of context of Ikuko telling Toya, hey, maybe you should write some stories, and that way you'd be able to remember the truth of that day. It also gives reason to insert like your own Purgatory, like, insert your own Forgery, like your own fan story. For example, this one written by Uminetta. Who knows, maybe Beller wrote like 50 fan stories like these. Whenever he wrote his forgeries, he felt as though he was walking within the dark fog of his mind, grasping one piece of the truth at a time. Toya frowned. He put the cup down, skimming the last page he had written. Was it really okay to publish these things? Ikuko had told him that it would spark more discussion, and that might help him remember. He'd be giving the witch hunters and detective types more information to work with, and maybe that he'd led relevant parties to them, or pushed people to bring up an idea that would remove the mist in his mind, in his head. But was something like this really okay? His head ached just thinking about it. From inside the mansion, Toya heard the sound of Ikuko briefly talking with someone, and the door closing shut. Did she order some books again? Perhaps a new mystery book had come out. Whenever she heard about a new popular mystery, she'd always immediately order a copy, sometimes even two, and ask Toya if both of them could read and discuss it together. I guess the music stopped. It was basically his cue to go in and see what the fuss was about. Toya stood up lazily, taking his teacup with him, and stepped inside, where he was greeted by the familiar face of the woman he lived with. So, did you receive a new book? Oh, you could tell already. As expected of you, Toya. I didn't even have time to open it yet. He could tell she was more excited than usual just from her face. For it to have grabbed her attention that much, was it an especially popular book? It must have been a special occasion, in that case. Oh, unless this is the book. It's not necessarily that the Purgatory of the Golden Witch was written by Toya, but maybe it was written by somebody else? And we're checking it out? Maybe she had heard a lot about it on the internet, and decided to order it. Or perhaps it was from an author she was a fan of. Nevertheless, it was odd to him. Usually, in situations like this, she wouldn't be able to hold in her excitement, and she would wind up telling Toya everything she ordered long before it arrived. The great mystery of Ikuko's book orders would be something worth writing about next, he thought to himself. How's your forgery progressing? Did you make any headway on that part you asked me about this morning? Not yet. I was hoping we could think about it together later, actually. I have the structure of the scene down, but I can't figure out how to put it into words. Oh, what a surprise. Normally you're the one who goes, ka-ching! I have the perfect idea. I guess even someone like you would be bound to get writer's block every once in a while. You flatter me too much, Ikuko. Ikuko knelt down to pet her cat, Burn. She seemed to be interested in Kuko's package. That cat was always acting weird. However, considering the eccentricities of its owners, it only made sense that weird masters would own weird cats. Yeah, such a lovely and weird cat, Burn. Yeah, just something Toya had gotten used to since he had arrived there. Even Burn, over time, had gotten used to him. Initially, she seemed to struggle to accept a new person in her room, but nowadays she'd sit on Toya's lap and occasionally let him pet her. No. Are you busy right now? I'll ask the maid to prepare us some snacks. Not at all. Just let me pick my stuff up from outside. I wouldn't want it to gather dust or fly away without noticing. So, what's this book about? Ikuko, who had finally settled down on the couch, passed her hand over the package. It's a forgery. A forgery? That's right. You know I'm not the type to get just to read a forgery like this. Normally, I just find the summary online to see what discussions they bring to the table. Frankly, most of them aren't worth us skimming through. But this one has been getting rather popular lately. In fact, some are even saying it's a forgery written by Hachijo Toya themselves. Uminetta tooting their horns over here about their story. Now this is one you should totally read. By me? It sparked a lot of theories about whether it's a real message battle, a forgery by Hachijo Toya, or a new writer altogether who has managed to capture the same feeling of the previous forgeries. Some compare elements of it to our past works, and claim it's just a rookie doing a good job writing a new tale based on it. Others believe it's all part of the game Hachijo Toya plays with their readers. Imagine if it was written by Erika. Like, it follows that theory of mine, like a theory that I wrote like last year of Erika Furuda possibly surviving and faking her death and all that. And this is a story written by her of Virgilius, her counter persona, like being involved in the story of Umineko and all that. Part of the game. Toya went quiet, but Ikuko continued. In fact, the author seems to claim their mystery is an Alphetics article, found from a message in a bottle. I'm certain it's a fraud, though. A fraud? What makes you say that? It's obvious. I gave some of the discussions about it a light skim, and it seems like it features a new character. A new character? Correct. Do you remember the Eternal Maid 2? The forgotten incident of the people who drowned on the same day as the Rokkenjima incident? I know that too well. Of course you remembered. The Rokkenjima incident had received so much attention in the media that the other tragedy that occurred on that day had been almost completely forgotten. Like, for those of you who have not, for those of you who are new, you can totally check this video that I've done. It was a fun theory that I wrote about Erika. Like it was a analysis that I wanted to do in order to understand Erika more, and thinking of the possibility that maybe she survived the incident. Maybe she faked her death to escape from everything. From, I don't know, maybe from her abusive lifestyle. What with her ex-boyfriend and maybe her parents and all that. His past life. And she wanted to escape from it all. Like, I am gonna continue working on that theory and tuning out a little bit and see what else I can do about it. One of the involved parties had even suggested that a family member may have washed ashore on Rokkenjima instead of drowning. That was the reason why they'd included the character of Furudo Erika in their previous forgery. Toya felt the itch of guilt crawl up his back. While it was true that the idea was suggested by the family themselves, was it really okay to use it like this? Apparently, that girl had an older brother. Ikuko continued, causing Toya's attention to shift back to her. I did some research. He went missing at the same time as his sister, and was likely with her on the ship. Curiously enough, he was 19 years old. Oh. So you're saying that Virgilius was also on that same ship, and they both fell off the boat. Okay, that's an interesting take. 19 years old. You see what I'm getting at, right? I think our forgery writer thought it was more fitting to bring him into play compared to what we did. But going as far as to claim they're the real deal. Doesn't it make you want to tackle this challenge, Toya? Ukuko's face was plastered in a victorious smile, as she finally removed the cover from the book. Alright. Purgatory of the Golden Witch. Plumbum Fluere D. The D? She's a member of the D clan? For One Piece? What? Plum... How do you even pronounce this? English was never your strong suit, was it? It's not even Japanese wordplay this time. I couldn't find any relevant numbers either. It's one of the things that made people doubt that it was a Hajodo Toya mystery. At the same time, it sure is weird enough to make people suspect the opposite. Purgatory of the Golden Witch. That name certainly had a presence to it. What do you say, Toya? Would you like to read it with me? It'll be a pleasure. If you're not in the mood, I could read it and tell you the contents, or let you read it on your own terms. No, I'm alright. Let's read it now. It's not like it was written by him anyway. After all, anyone could write about the Ushima family in any way they wanted. It was just rare for Ikuko to make such a move. I've got some writer's block anyway. Maybe it'll give me some new ideas if it's as good as you say. From what I've heard, this forgery is claiming to be set after Turn, but before Banquet. An alternative episode 3 for the tale. After Turn, but before Banquet. Yeah, because episode 4 was called Banquet. What, right? Yeah, I think it was called No. Episode 3 was called Banquet. An alternative. Well, that's unusual. Most forgery writers use everything they know to make their tales more believable. It almost feels like going back in time, doesn't it? Now, where do we begin? The Witch of Firgoing was set by her table, with a chessboard and a small box for pieces next to it. First, let us remove the unnecessary characters. After all, we were introduced to so many new characters in just a few episodes. Those characters can temporarily return to the box. Oh my. Yeah, I guess so. We're gonna include like characters that were not even in episode 3 yet. We're even gonna wait, are we gonna include Erika as well? It is a shame that some pieces have to be removed from the board. But for the sake of entertainment, some actors must be replaced. After all, a show with repeating actors, as interesting as it would not be as thrilling without new characters to add up a different flavor. Even the finest wine can become dull if you bring it for too long. The noise of the chess pieces moving echoed in the mystical space the Grand Witch inhabited. First was the noise of the pieces being put to rest in a small box. Sometimes, Federin seemed to linger for a short while over a piece, as though she felt sorry for them. What would be cooler for a piece? To be used and then die to make the table interesting? Or to never exist at all? Of course, the answer was the latter. It also would have been interesting if we had like peace in this, because this actually would have fit as well. Like, you know, having like an alternative instead of Erika, we have Virgilius. Like that was That was the point of what we discussed, like in the epilogue of Last Note. After all, a piece who has lived and died can leave behind people to mourn them. There are people left to miss them, or to hope for their return. However, no one can mourn a character that never appeared in the first place. Rest assured, this is but a temporary arrangement. Your role is not over yet. The witch hummed, as if to herself, as she finished cleaning the board of its extra pieces and adding another one. Then she turned her gaze to the darkness. At first, it seemed as though there was nothing there. But of course, that wasn't the case. He was there, quietly watching, waiting for its turn. Nice. A brand new opening made for the story as well. That was actually pretty cool. And I never... Hell, like, what is this song too? Because I never heard that song. Is this a song that actually existed before? Oh, okay. That existed? Or was it actually made for the fan story as well? That's something that I want to know. Ushine! Mama's pushing in line again! You can't blame me. After all, this is taking forever. I can't help getting bored. You two are acting like it matters. This doesn't look like it's making any progress. What are you talking about, Bethany? The most important kind of girl is one that can make her way into a man's heart, quite literally. With food, too. The shrill laughter of the seven sisters of Purgatory echoed throughout the room. They surrounded a single man who had blood oozing down his shoulder. Oof. Back in the day when Battle was still being tortured, it seemed like his wounds had been freshly inflicted upon him by the witch's furniture. You monsters. Can Battle put you all on leashes and walk you around like dogs instead? You should be grateful. Beatrice-sama gave you special treatment back then. And yet you can't solve even a single mystery. How worthless. I can't believe our master considers you a worthless... I can't believe our master considers you a worthwhile opponent. Huh? What can I say? Incompetent. I mean, It was written in red, even from episode 2, early on.
Certainly. You shouldn't question Beatrice-sama's tastes.
In the same room, the golden witchy lay gracefully on a couch, watching her furniture play with their new toy. After all, she probably hadn't experienced such an entertaining show for at least a few hundred years. Okay, let me check something right over here. So we have the tips right over here. Man that lost the memories of his past in a car accident. Okay. Okay. The usual stuff that we know about them. To which there was a little difference between the realms of dream and reality. In a dream, you can create an impossible fantasy situation unlike anything in the human world. In a dream, you can meet those you've lost, take to the skies, or even warp time itself on a whim. However, for the endless witch, Purgatory, who would create and destroy any fantasy she could imagine with a wave of her hand, dreams were nothing more than another playground. This was far more interesting. Dreams are limited by what their creators can imagine, so anything beyond that was out of the question. But now, there was someone new to keep surprising her. Despite how pathetic he was, despite how painfully expected all his moves were, he was vastly more entertaining than any show she could dream up herself.
Come now, girls. You can't expect a mortal who's lived only a fraction of my lifetime to solve it so fast, right? I'll give you as much time as you need, Batora. As long as you keep me entertained, I could keep this game going for at least another 100 years. Yes.
Yes, for an endless witch, this was nothing but temporary entertainment. For Shinomiya Balor, though, this was a nightmare he could not make from. This was a nightmare he could not wake up from. No matter how often the witch would kill him and revive him, he could not be freed from his torment. That was, unless he destroyed her. So useless! Zen Damera! If you think this is all you'll need to break me, then you're wrong. In fact, I'm having plenty of fun with this personal harem of cute-ass nechans you've arranged for me.
Oh, it must be nice being so popular, Batora. Is this what your dreams are like? Nah. I'm certain that your dreams are your sole respite from this hell by now. You can wake up whenever you want, you know. All you need to do is acknowledge me as a witch. If you do that, I'll make every dream you've ever had a reality. There's nothing my magic can't do.
Well, thanks for the consideration, but I'm doing just fine. I'll be climbing up and throwing you off that throne of yours soon enough.
Aww. What big talk for the man who hasn't solved any of the mysteries in the previous games. I've killed and revived you more times than you can count, yet you still remain so confident. You truly could keep me entertained for another 100 years.
The man on the ground rose from the floor, shaking off the witch's furniture. I'm not here for your entertainment. My only goal is to defeat you.
Is that so? If you're doing so well, then maybe it's time to start a new game, correct? Beatrice-sama! I haven't played with him at all. Stop bugging Beatrice-sama.
Well, that's just great, isn't it? I'm not gonna lose to you. And there's no chance I'll accept you either. No matter what kind of screwed up tricks or magic shows you show me. There's absolutely no way I'll acknowledge you.
Those are big words from someone like you. Well then, it's time for you to wake from your nightmare. Ushiro mi abatora. Come, my opponent. I want to see you struggle, cry, and beg to please be forgiven for my arrogance, Beatrice-sama. Ah, that's just amazing. Merely the thought of making you surrender to me again is bringing me excitement. Come, the third game is about to begin. See if you can defeat me this time. Ushiro mi abatora.
Alrighty then, let's begin. Okay, so I guess Beatrice is the one who is writing like an alternative, which would include Virgilius. Like I was thinking it's either that or some other interference is gonna come. Like Byrne is gonna come in with a story of Virgilius. Like who knows? But yeah, I guess Beatrice is gonna make the stage for this one herself with no interferences.
There, all done. By the time everyone's here, these cookies will be fresh from the oven.
Cookies.
They have such a pleasant smell. Do you think they go great with black tea? Oh, we mustn't prepare the tea so early. There's still time before the guests arrive. After all, Jessica-sama only just went to Nijima to greet them.
The servants of the Shumio household had been busy since early in the morning in order to prepare for the annual family conference. For such an important event, everything had to be perfect in order to greet the guests in the best way possible. The fridge, which usually only held a modest amount of ingredients, was now filled to the brim in order to provide a special menu that had been handpicked by the family chef, Goda. Even though the sun was out, a cold autumn breeze swept through the bushes. A storm was forecasted for the evening, and the chef wished to be prepared for a scenario where the family needed to stay for longer than planned. Even if the weather were to turn sour, he hoped he could soothe their hearts with a warm meal. Kumasawa, Shannon, and Kanon had been busy since morning preparing the guest house for the family. We're gonna be pausing like every time, I guess, since we're getting introduced to every character. All the dust had been wiped away, and the beds had been neatly arranged and prepared to welcome those who would rest their heads on their soft pillows. Meanwhile, Genji was assigned to prepare the main hall and dining room. For the cousins, the conference was a time for them to catch up, talk, and have a good time. However, for the adults, the family conference was an important event where they would discuss the future of the Ushiomeya family. Ah yes, the talk about the money. 'Cause, after all, they need a lot of money right now. I always gotta do that. I always gotta reference that.
There isn't much left to do here for now. You can take a break, Shannon-chan. Thank you very much.
Shannon removed the apron she was wearing, folding it neatly. She handed it over to Kumasawa before leaving into the corridor. Before she made it very far though, she spotted Natsuki by the window. She seemed to be inspecting the rose garden. The bothered expression on her face came as no surprise to Shannon, who was aware that the yearly conference was a very important day for her husband.
Shannon, have you finished preparing for today? Yes, madame. Everything is prepared for the guest's arrival.
I would ask that you check on the guest house again. It's absolutely crucial that it is spotless.
Understood. I'll check right away.
With a bow, Shannon turned around and made her way to the guest house. Man, I managed to read the word bow like correctly on the first go. Cause usually sometimes when I encounter that word, like I either have to think between bow and bow. Natty let out a heavy sigh. Her headaches had been harsh the past few days. There was a lot to worry about, and she couldn't allow any mistakes. The rose garden was immaculate, and the sky was beautiful. It was hard to believe that a storm was due. Madame, the preparation for the main hall is complete. I shall send Gora to greet the guests upon their arrival and assist with their luggage.
Thank you. How is father?
He still refuses to leave his room. I believe he will not be joining us this year. Like last time I checked, he was still screaming Beatrice's name and yelling words like desire.
I see. God, I hate it when he does that. Like during the night, I just cannot get a blink of sleep. Like I just cannot catch a break. I cannot sleep at all.
Imagine, like part of the reason why Nazi has like headaches, besides the usual stuff like the family related stuff and all that, but because Kinzo just yells like at night. Although, of course, that's clearly not the case recently because we know that Kinzo is dead by this point, but she's probably thinking it. She's probably, like, you know, with the guilt of hiding, like, Kinzo's death from the family and all that, maybe she's having guilt to the point where she's being delusional and maybe she is thinking of Kinzo being around as if he is still alive, truly. And thus, she's thinking of Kinzo like screaming his lungs out in the distance. And she's having a headache because of it. Genji went quiet, as though he was lingering on some.
What is it, Genji?
While I was arranging a room, I found a letter on the table. It's still sealed. I did not believe you would have left it unread if you had noticed it. Yeah, you know, speaking of, like, Virgilius and this moment right over here with Nazi, I'm reminded because not only was Virgilius supposed to be like a part of episode 3 onwards until he was cut and instead we had Beatrice and Erika. Like not only that, but this Virgilius guy was actually supposed to be seen as the boy from 19 years ago, that you would more than likely be like the one that Natsuki threw like off the cliff, like the baby from 19 years ago. So yeah, I guess it makes sense that we would have this moment with Natsuki. So I guess Natsuki is gonna have like an important role in this. Yeah, cause with Erika, she had no relation to the family, like, whatsoever. So, I mean, we still had, like, a very important episode 5 moment with Natsuki being a part of it, because of, you know, her hiding Kinzo, and we had to discuss that throughout. And Erika was heavily onto Natsuki because of that. And episode 5 was the episode that dealt with the boy from 19 years ago. Man, like, having this being done in episode 3, this is gonna be interesting. Very well, I shall bring it at once. I guess this must be a letter written by that boy. When Genji returned, he seemed to be holding something familiar. There was no doubt about it. He was one of the Ushimiya family's wax-sealed envelopes. The symbols on these letters were imprinted by a golden ring owned by Ushimiya Kinzo, the head of the family. Which is interesting because Beatrice is usually the one who has access to the ring and would be able to write these letters. So, wait, hold on a second. Like, if I'm to think further about this, if we are seeing Virgilius as the boy from 19 years ago, that would mean that Virgilius would actually be another persona for Yasu. Huh. Interesting. Man, imagine if Erika also was like a persona of Beatrice. That surely would have been wild. But yeah, I like Erika the way she is. But surely that was impossible. But in this case, since we have Virgilius is going to be like another persona of Yasu. After all, the head would never. Natsuki pushed on those thoughts as she took the letter with shaking hands. What could it have meant? There was no logical explanation for how an envelope sealed by the head itself could have made its way into Natsuki's room. And yet... She slowly opened the envelope, unfurling the single paper inside.
Genji! What is the meaning of this? Where did this letter come from?
I'm sorry, madame, but I don't know. I only saw it waiting for you on the table.
What the hell was that? How did someone... No one should know about it.
Natsuki's mind raced as she tightened her grip on the letter. The letter wasn't long at all. In fact, it was rather short, without even a signature. Despite that, Natsuki still understood what this letter meant. Her eyes darted across the paper again and again, as though she couldn't fully grasp what she was reading. After all, it was impossible.
Is this some sort of cruel joke? I will not accept something like this, especially not on the day of the family conference.
Natsuki gripped the paper, which caused it to crinkle and lose its form. She wanted nothing more than to throw the letter away and forget that she had ever read it. When was this placed in her room? Today? Maybe the day before, or before that, or perhaps had she just not noticed? Was it one of the servants? Someone in cahoots with the sender? Or maybe... Her spine shivered at the thought.
Genji, tell nobody about this letter. Proceed with preparations as scheduled.
Understood. I apologize if this letter brought you discomfort.
No, it's okay. Like it's not your fault.
Natsuki glanced down at the wrinkled paper in her hand, and she felt her knees go weak. Her head, which had already been aching, now throbbed in pain. She had no idea where it had come from, and she couldn't fathom who would have wanted to, and could have placed this letter in her room. Therefore, it had to have been a prank. A cruel prank coded in a string of coincidences. Well, it is easy to put in there. She couldn't let it disturb her. If she did, it would show the prankster that she was faced by this ridiculous act. Like, someone like, say, Shannon would put the letter inside her room, and then tell Genji, hey, can you tell Natsuki that you found this, like, in her room? Maybe they were watching from afar then, sneering at her. She could not allow that to happen. Therefore, the letter did not happen. She had never read it. That was her decision. Despite that, she couldn't help but look behind her to make sure she wasn't being followed. Oh? Is it cousins time? Is it family/cousin time? cousin time. Whew! Finally, some solid ground. I feel alive again!
Ochiru, Ochiru. I can't believe you, Balor. Aren't you all 18 already? You should have gotten over by that now.
No, Maria-chan, Jessica-chan. Don't bully Balor-kun too much. These lovely babies. Even adults have fears too, you know. Although, it's... The hell, Ariakey? I thought you were on my side. You can't blame me for being stressed, right? You were shaking so much. You felt like I was going to... I still don't get why people find it enjoyable, you know. There are people out there who consider staying on a boat for days of vacation. Ah, nice. Solid ground really is the best. Well, I could go for a swim too.
It's cold this time of year, but in the summer it's pretty cool to have all over Kinjima's beach to yourself. Can't say it's not a bit boring enjoying it on your own though.
Look on the bright side. Enjoying on your own means that you can make it your own private nudist beach.
Shut it, you!
Oi, brats. Stop lagging behind. Don't tell me you're planning on doing another round of that boat before joining us. Shut up, you old geezer! This is all your fault, you know.
Leave them be. It must be exciting for them to be together after 6 years.
Alright, well, let's see. Let's, skim through these. She was born with weak bronchi, and is sometimes assailed by sudden asthma attacks. Okay, so are we gonna have that into play as well? Okay. Cause, you know, there is that thought that Jessica is faking her asthma. I think I'm referencing this like every single time I'm doing like a fan story or side content. But yeah, like Jessica may be faking her asthma, and like only Yasu knew of Jessica's asthma / fake asthma, whereas Toya, like / Balor, he never knew that Jessica did that, I guess, like because he was away from the family, so he couldn't have known. But I guess in this case, maybe the asthma is gonna play a role in this. Cause so it kind of gives you the feeling that this was also written by Beatrice. Like maybe this is another secret bottle that was written by Beatrice at some point before the Rokkenjima incident, and she put in a bottle and let it drift, and somebody found it and decided to make it into a book or something. Maybe that's the case?
It probably brings back a lot of memories.
It sure is a shame Angie-chan couldn't make it today. They grow so fast when they're young. I ain't gonna recognize her next time. Heck, even Maria-chan's growing to be a real beauty. I bet you're so proud, Rosa-san.
She grew 2 centimeters just in the last few months. I have to buy her new clothes so often now.